Call to order the regular meeting of the school board for Monday, January 13th. One note, Dr. Brenner is joining us via telephone this evening. First item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. I ask you to rise as you are able. One A, the reading of our school board meeting norms. Mr. Palmasino.
Be prepared, be on time, value and respect each other, exercise thoughtful deliberation and conversation, be professional at the board table and when visiting with the general public, speak up when the norms are not being followed, advocate for on behalf of students, and keep the community in mind.
Thank you. Item 2, the approval of our agenda this evening. I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda. It's been moved by Mr. Palmasino. Is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. Manley. We'll take a roll call vote.
Clevin?
Yes.
Manley?
Yes.
Hodak?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Lund?
Yes.
Palmasino?
Yes.
And Berger?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. Thank you. Item 3, celebrating success. We have various members of Winship Elementary School with us this evening. We'll lead off with Mr. Travis Thorvaldson.
Thank you very much for having us. It is really a pleasure to be here. And it's a pleasure to be here with this Winship team as well. They'll all have a part in tonight's presentation. So thank you for this conversation. I did tell them, take a deep breath. We don't have to worry about getting nervous. We don't have to, I first thought we'd have to hurry up to get Dr. Brenner home so that he could watch the Bengals game. But it turns out, they're not playing. So I don't feel any pressure at all to present here whatsoever.
He just told me to tell you that hurts a little bit.
It's the same for Mr. Bakke. He was going to stay home tonight to watch the highlights of the Packers game, but there are no highlights of the Packers. I looked on DPI's webpage when it comes to Be Legendary, what it meant, what's the big picture. And it's this, this great alignment between school boards, superintendents, district leaders, and school-based teams like ours. And it talks about the singular focus of student achievement, student outcomes. And they use 2 words, sharpen and cultivate. How do we sharpen and cultivate our focus? And so I really hope that the stories we tell about our children, who they are and who their families are, what kind of growth they have, how are they achieving, and what we intend to do to help them succeed resonate with you and help you sharpen and cultivate your focus for our school. I'm pretty excited about that. So we'll start just with mission and vision and then get into demographics, and away we go.
Hi, I'm Chrissy Dewey. I'm the ML teacher, one of the ML teachers at Winship. The vision's up here, but really meaningful experiences and bringing meaningful experiences, fostering curiosity, and then taking risks, not only our students, but also our teachers. We really encourage that. And our mission, we just truly want to enrich the world. So thank you.
I'm going to leave this slide up here just for a moment before I talk about demographics, because these are our children, these are our colleagues, and you'll see quite a few pictures throughout the evening that look like the world that surrounds us. There's a lot of diversity in our school. You'll see that throughout the evening. Here's what our organization looks like for tonight. We'll go through those 4 parts, demographics, ELA, math, attendance, PBI, SEL, and then we added a section that we're calling impacting growth, things that we might do or have a philosophy about that are different because of our children and our families. We're excited to share that with you. I would be neglectful if I did not add a thank you to Miss Jess Sporbert. You'll probably recognize some of the structure from past schools that we're presenting. And she was really instrumental and was a great guide and was a great leader for us and really spent a ton of time. So if you know Miss Jess Sporbert, she's just a wonderful asset to our school community, and she spent lots of time with us. Here's who we are. We have 36 certified staff. That includes our classroom teachers. This includes our ML teachers, multilingual teachers, our special education teachers. This includes literacy. This includes our specialists, including library media specialists, our social studies, PE, music. This includes counselor, social worker. It also includes a number of staff that we share with other schools or that are transient between buildings, like is common within our district. 36 of those certified staff members. And then we have 22 classified staff members that includes kitchen, custodial, office staff, and of course, all of our wonderful paras. We don't have any program paras that you maybe have heard other schools speak about. All of our paras are either inclusion paras, library paras, or other paras as such. We have 211 students. We're in 12 general education classrooms. This year, we had a little bubble in our kindergarten numbers, so we have one section of pure K and then a section of K1 combo. Other than that, we have two sections of grade levels 1 through 5. You can see our low-income percentages, almost 70%. Historically, that will be north of 70% for our school. Our ML students make up about 37% of our population. You'll hear more about that later. That's a huge component of our school that does set us apart from almost all other elementary schools in our community. And then our special education team and our classroom teachers serve our students with IEPs. They make up about 17.6% of our students.
Thank you. I'm Logan Cassa, the school social worker at Winship. And really what I want to tell you as we look at the ethnicity and the student population, these are just the numbers of the kids that we serve every day. But truthfully, we're telling you the story about them and how it creates Winship. So as you can see, there's a lot of diversity up there related to ethnicity and the demographics just by that population alone. And so it brings a lot of uniqueness to Winship. I'm really sharpening my Spanish-speaking skills and things. They're teaching me a lot there that I think kind of shapes what we do every day. When we look at our special student populations for ML, low income, and McKinney-Vento, the unique piece of it there and how we found those kids, I guess, would be kind of something that is unique to Winship in that we do home visits every year, myself with the ML teachers and sometimes the classroom teachers as well. And many of those families had marked that they had permanent housing on their enrollment form. But what we found when we got there was a lot different. Families doubled up, 14 people living in one house, homes that weren't maybe fit for human habitation with no heat, maybe no refrigeration, things like that. And those were things that we would not have known about had we not gone into the home, because to a lot of those families, they felt like that was truthfully stable housing. And we know that that's probably not the case for that. It also impacts what we do as a whole in that we have a lot of things that we cater to our families so that they can feel that there's equity for them. So Winship has a food pantry that families and students have access to. We also ensure that our kids have their winter gear. So all the schools do that, but some of our families don't know how to access that any other way other than coming to the school and working with our classroom teachers or myself. And then really, when families need something, I definitely am headed to their home or texting or having them come in, because a lot of our families don't know how to access the community, and that's definitely something that we do, is help them access the things that are out there for them through us at Winship. Sorry, guys.
This picture up above just shows the multilingual students at Winship. So we currently have 78 multilingual students. As you can see, they're from all over the world, many different languages. And again, some of our students speak more than 2 languages. In the past, the Nepalese population was our largest population. But in the last 2 years, you can see Central and South America has become the largest population district-wide with our Spanish-speaking students. Also, just this diversity, and then you think of the families and the siblings and the parents that come, it brings so much culture and diversity and richness into not just Winship, but into Grand Forks, into our district. It's truly a blessing to have these families in our community, in our schools. You can see this is a breakdown when a ML child comes, or they get their language proficiencies are in 6 levels, a level 1 being entering with little to no English, all the way to a level 6, which is reaching. They use social and academic language at their highest level. At Winship, 15% of our ML students are entering, so they come to us with little to no English. And a third of all the level 1 students in the district are at Winship. So that's a big impact in our school. We've come to realize just how critical it is to collaborate, to scaffold, to collaborate school-wide, from classroom teachers to ML teachers, to reading specialists, to interventionists, to paras. It's huge because the goal is, no matter what amount of language they have, we want them in the classroom. We want them with their peers learning, hearing all that academic language. So scaffolding is really big, and the collaboration that we do is huge. The second graph is language proficiency levels by grade. So you can see we have in every classroom at least 2 level 1 students. So where they came to us with little to no English, all the way to level 2s, level 3s, and we have some 4s and some 5s. So the impact that the teachers have working together is, like, again, I said, very critical. A level 1 student in 5th grade has a larger gap than, say, a kindergartner or a 1st grader that comes with lower language. So that gap that we need to fill is more critical or more apparent in the older grades. But again, we've learned, and we've come to learn, that collaboration is so key because they are making huge growth in the gains they make. The third graph, it shows us the growth. So the English language learners, they're growing. The trajectory in which they're growing, the growth that they're making, is what is expected for them to exit the program. So Winship definitely is showing huge growth compared to even district or statewide. So that's the growth compared to themselves. In the next few slides, when Ms. Bean and Mrs. Bernier come up looking at the ELA proficiency by grade level, even though our ML students are making huge growth, they're not proficient at their grade level. But that's just part of our story, right? Where our children have come from, how far they've come, how much they're growing, and where they're going to go is so much more to our story than just this or the next few slides. So I'm really proud of our team. And yeah, Cassidy and Kristen, come on up. Is there any questions? I'm sorry, I should ask you if there's any questions with demographics so far before we move into ELA. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Palmasino.
Do you see more kids coming during the school year, or do you see the number come at the beginning and you stay with that?
Yeah, so last year, the last 2 years, there was a huge influx throughout the year of students coming throughout the year. And then thankfully, our district noticed that and they made some adjustments. So Lake Agassiz became an ML student, ML school to help with that because our numbers grew drastically very quickly. So we're very thankful for the district seeing that need. But this year, it's been a slow, at Winship, I should say. The other ML schools, they've seen ML attendance or starting schools, not just at the beginning of the year. So they're still kind of coming in throughout the year. But we haven't seen it as much this year at Winship. Yeah.
Other questions before we move on? Okay. Thank you for the
Yeah,
pause.
thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. My name is Cassidy Bina. Ooh, I better adjust this. Cassidy Bina. I'm a literacy specialist at Winship.
Hello, I'm Kristen Bernier. I'm the second literacy specialist at Winship.
So Kristen and I work together, and today we'll be sharing some data regards to our English language assessments and some of our data that we collect for literacy and our school's literacy plan. So Winship teachers collaborated and did some work into digging into our data and our past NDSA scores with the goal of an 8% growth proficiency increase. So if you can see on here, we have our 2022 38% growth in our students, and then in 23-24, which was just last year, 34% growth. And then our teachers all met and decided upon what would be a good growth goal per year for the next few years to get to 2028, which is 46% proficient. So you can see the trend line there and the progression that we would like to make for our school. And these are some of the ways that we are going to ensure that we get there as a building. These inputs will help us with our ELA growth goals and supporting literacy within our classroom. So a few of the things that for sure we really would like to highlight are the top one: district curriculum is taught with fidelity in a tier 1 level. That means all students are getting all of the same materials, curriculum, and access. And then the other one that is a big one in our building is the targeted small group instruction. We call that TSGI. And with that, those are different approaches to meet all the needs of all the students at different parts of the day. Here are some other inputs that we would like to recognize for opportunities to support our school in the area of literacy. The top one being that we have 2 literacy specialists, which is unique to some of the schools in our district. Not all schools have the 2 literacy specialists, but we're lucky enough to do that, because we do have some dynamic needs, and even though our population doesn't show it, our needs definitely show that we have to support these students that are coming in the best way possible. So Kristen and I are the 2 literacy specialists. And the other one is the data meetings at every PLC and data digs after each assessment window. Our teachers really work hard in these powerful opportunities to help our students grow in their academic needs. And these are ways that we can ensure our instructional approaches and their needs can be met and implemented during these times of the day. And then here we have our ELA outcomes through NDSA. This is current data that reflects the percent proficient in 3rd grade in blue, red is our 4th grade, and then 5th grade is in yellow. And it shows a little bit of a trend from 2020 to 2024. The left side graph we look at as our current year, and we reflect on what we can do to help those students as they move up to different grade levels. And on the right side, you see the trend that we follow the pattern of each grade level. So we look at our 3rd graders from 2021, and as they grow as 4th graders and 5th graders. So we try to really track those patterns of growth and find areas that we can help close the gap. And this chart will show our student populations and the percentage proficient in 22 to 23 and then 24 as well. One thing to highlight is we have the green population of students who have met our growth goal already for the end of 2025, which is 37% proficient for this year. And the other populations you see, we have a gap to fill. And like Mrs. Dewey said, these students, we really celebrate the growth each and every day. That number doesn't tell their story, but it does give us some more insight into what we really need to focus on in the classroom to help these students grow and be successful on these state assessments. All right, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Bernier. She's going to share a little bit more about our STAR data.
Hello. So next I'm going to take you through our STAR growth data by grade. And as I think Mr. Thorvaldsen said earlier, we have 2 sections of each grade level. So when you're looking at our kindergarten data here, if you look below where there's a 1 and a 2, that's simply dividing into the 2 different sections of kindergarten that we have. And then it is totaled in that 3rd column there. So what you're seeing is on the left, letter sound fluency, that's our STAR CBM, so that's our curriculum-based data. Blue is where we began in the fall, and then winter was our most current data. So you can see in kindergarten, we've had incredible growth there. And then on the right is our STAR Early Literacy Assessment, which is also through STAR CAT, which is a computer adaptive test. And our district's goal by the end of the year is to be at 50% proficiency. And in this specific assessment, there is some literacy and math questions within. So as I take you through each grade level, you'll kind of see the same format there. So this is kindergarten at Winship. And then here is first grade. As we mentioned before, there is one combo class. So you will see that third combo in the data as well for some of those first graders that are with the kinders. And once we're into first grade, we're going to be talking about the oral reading fluency from first through fifth. So basically, are they proficient enough to read a grade level text within 1 minute? So you can see the two different sections of first grade there, and then the total showing growth. And then you may start to see the stars on the bottom, and those stars denote the Wit and Wisdom classrooms that are piloting that curriculum this year. So if you look at STAR Early Literacy, that's similar to, well, that's actually identical to what kindergarten takes as well. So you can see growth. And Mrs. Bina and I look at this data and help us guide who needs help and how. And I'll continue on. Here is a look at second grade, again with the oral reading fluency on the left, from growth from fall to winter. And then on the right is the STAR reading test, which is the first year that second graders take this, or students, I should say, take this specific test. And both of our sections of second grade are piloting the Wit and Wisdom curriculum this year. The same here in third grade with the oral reading fluency, the two sections of third grade with fall to winter growth. And then again, that red line showing where our end of year hope would be for that 50th percentile. And we do not have any third grade piloters this year, but we do have one in fourth grade that you'll notice on the right for STAR reading. And again, the oral reading fluency from fall to winter. And finally, our fifth grade data for the growth in oral reading from fall to winter, and then also their STAR reading CAT test. Is there anything ELA related that Cassidy and I can answer before we move on to math?
Mr. Clevin?
The STAR reading, that's not the assessment goal though, right? That's
Be legendary.
the metric's a different test?
Correct. Yes. Yep. It's separate from Be Legendary, which is the NDA plus. Yes.
So this data is just used for like historical tracking and,
Yes.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
Yep. Of course.
Also it's a predictor for us to see, how might they do on that NDSA
sure.
assessment, so it helps us and it
Thanks.
guides us, yeah.
Other questions from board members? Yes. Ms. Clevin?
Move my chippers out of the way. I have two questions. My first one is, since Wit and Wisdom is being piloted, curious about how it's piloted at Winship with a large ML population, and maybe if the program is set up as such to maybe manage ML populations. And then my second question, which may or may not be both of you, is really just looking at the ML population in terms of parent-teacher conferences. So when we're going through some of these things, I think like any parent, especially when you're in kindergarten, is like, oh, hey, what are all these assessments and where's my kid at? And so just curious about language barriers and how those conversations go too.
Absolutely. In regard to the Wit and Wisdom, I think just like Mrs. Dewey talks about a lot, it's all about collaboration. And I'm really proud of our team at Winship. Our teachers are very thorough about looking ahead at what's to come. There's a lot of pre-teaching that can happen, a lot of collaboration, or I guess correlation of topics. If there maybe was a unit on the heart, then teachers are really good at talking to the ML teachers and saying, hey, let's find these vocabulary words, let's pre-teach it, let's find videos in Spanish, let's see what kinds of different opportunities we can have for these kids. And what's wonderful about Wit and Wisdom is it is language-based. There's so much vocabulary, which is good for all kids, right? And so I think that's really helped us serve all children as well. The focus on vocabulary, language, oral language and speaking. I believe there is an ML component to the Wit and Wisdom, which we've dabbled in a little bit, but again, it's just really good teachers making smart decisions about what the kids need, and so far, so good. The language that I've heard in the classrooms is
Really good.
quite spectacular. Things that I hear fourth graders talking about and how eloquently, and even feeling that safe space to be able to speak out loud has been pretty great.
And they all are accessing the same curriculum, and so they're in there for all of it.
Yes.
That is a very sacred time that we have them in the room, and we make sure that no students leave during that time, so it's pretty powerful.
Yes. And I don't know if Mrs. Dewey wants to elaborate on conferences as well, or testing and things like that, but we do utilize Voyance, the translation system, quite frequently. And we are lucky enough to have one of our ML teachers is fluent in Spanish, which is, kind of our most prevalent language aside from English. And then what we do is we are pretty great about taking the most important parts and using a lot of visuals for those families and checking and double checking that they understand what it is that we are proud of, things that we're working on, and just celebrating their successes.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Thank you.
Other questions from board members on this section? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, my name's Stephanie Kruger. I kind of have a unique position at Winship. My title is a math collaboration teacher, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that is and what I do specifically. But I'm here to talk about our math goals. Like ELA, we collaborated as a staff to look at our goal for growth in proficiency in math through the 2027-2028 school year. We're looking to reach 38% proficient by September of 2028 as measured by NDA Plus. And that's our kind of trajectory that we're looking at. All right, here are some ways that we're working on increasing our proficiency in math as a school. So my position is a title-funded position. I'm a math collaboration teacher because I kind of get the best of both worlds. I don't pull out kids to do interventions like our English, our reading interventionists do. Instead, I get to do some intensive work with teachers, and I collaborate with them every week to plan for the week ahead. We have a co-teaching model in grades 2 through 5, so I'm joining classrooms every day to support students with differentiation, or sometimes I lead the class and the classroom teacher might take a small group to do differentiation in the moment. That looks like maybe providing manipulatives that they might need in order to complete the math, giving higher levels of support or completing things as a group. And then during our math collaboration meetings, we kind of talk about how that's going, how kids might shift around, or what the next thing we're looking at doing in our math lessons. We also use that time to analyze data. So when we get those STAR scores in, we can look at where our kids are and where we might need to go next. And we've also taken a deep dive into instructional strategies. So we talk about things like what manipulatives might be helpful here, what background knowledge do we need to make sure kids have before we can move on to this next step. Is there any lessons that we maybe need to stretch out or condense to make sure that we're getting kids the information they need and they have enough practice? We've also renewed our focus on vertical alignment between grade levels. So since I get to join all the grades 2 through 5, I can say to the second grade teachers, hey, next year in third grade, they're really gonna need this concept to be solid, so let's make sure we're focused closely. We also talk about using vocabulary that's the same from vertically between grades so that kids are familiar with the structure, and when they hear that word again in third grade, they know, oh yeah, we talked about that in second grade. And because I join all those grade levels, I have a chance to share that with teachers and kind of align that a little better. We've used title funds to shore up physical math supplies, so lots of manipulatives. We use cards a lot to practice like our math facts and things, and we noticed that we needed to kind of shore up those materials. We've also bought some new tools and a digital fact fluency platform that are used daily, and that's what we've used our title funds for, to support in math. Another thing that I've been really passionate about in my position is the correlation between social emotional learning and math. We've really renewed our focus on the connection between our thinking and feelings about math and how we do math. I say up here, more than counting, arithmetic, and memorization, math is the act of problem solving. And so if our students see themselves as problem solvers who are capable of doing the math, then we have a little higher success rate, and kids are more willing to take a risk and attack the math challenges using lots of different strategies. And then I put a little quote here that I think kind of speaks to this, which is, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And we want our kids to think and know that they can. Similar to ELA, we have some data here for math outcomes on the NDSA. Again, the blue represents 3rd grade, 4th grade in red, and then yellow is 5th grade. We do have some variable data here, and again, we're working hard, myself as a collaboration teacher and all of our classroom teachers, on how we can keep this going in an upward trajectory. On the other side, the green arrows are just tracking a cohort of students, so the 3rd graders when they were in 4th grade to 5th grade. And of course, we want to see those proficiency levels go up as they move through. This is some breakdowns by our student population. The green is indicating that those students have met our 2025 end of the year goal based on the STAR predictor. We don't have NDSA results because we haven't taken that test yet, but we're hoping that these STAR scores are going to help us predict how they might perform on that NDA plus test. Of course, we have some more work to do, but I am encouraged to see growth even from the beginning of the year, just to our progress monitoring in November. And these numbers are indicating the percent of students who were proficient. Any questions about math?
Any questions on this section? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so I get to walk you through the next portion that I'm super passionate about. Obviously, as a social worker, we're focusing on the whole child, but at Winship, I'm not the only one that does that, and so I think for us, we really work as a team and process through that. So one of the things that you're going to see throughout here are the clear and consistent expectations. And this year, really, we dove into that with creating some good behavior matrix for our students that our staff will talk a little bit more about later, so that we all are being consistent and have the same language used with our students K-5. The first part is our attendance goal, and really what we're looking for is our kids to be in the seats so that they can learn. And what are we doing about that, and how are we getting them here is one of the largest portions. So what are our inputs? What are we doing to get our students here? Relationships are key. If you don't have a relationship with that student and you don't have a relationship with that family, you're not going to get very far. And that's something that we are doing all of the time to help our families feel like school is a place that their children are safe, that they feel safe, that they are connected to. Our families that feel safe with us are willing to have tough conversations, are willing to tell us things that are barriers for their students to come to school, and then we can work on them. If we don't know what's going on, we can't help. So we're also regularly having contact with students and families about attendance, seesaw messages, phone calls, conversations at pickup. And then myself, I'm now at Winship 5 days a week versus 3, and that will be important to note just as we go a little bit further with our attendance data. So at this time last year, we have made a great increase on our students that have attended. Last year at this time, we had 45 out of our 215-ish students chronically absent. And when this data was pulled for this year, we only have 24. So the decrease of students who are chronically absent is huge at Winship, and we're seeing that, we're feeling that. Even some of our chronic offenders, kids that have been chronically absent since kindergarten, might still be chronically absent, but it's less days that they're missing. I really attribute that to myself being able to be there every single day. I can watch that attendance data. I can see and get into homes more regularly because my time isn't being split. The home visits, again, I created packets to give to those ML families with resources for them, and then our ML teacher who speaks Spanish translated some of that for them, just really to increase the realization that school is important with our ML families and all of our regular kids, just like you have to get to school. If we look at our outcomes here on the next page, so we have had 137 of our students have attended 95% or more days of school, which is amazing. We are getting our kids to school, and when they're there, they can learn. Kids can't learn if they're not in their seat. But we are seeing some populations that are having a higher chronically absent rate, one of those being our Hispanic or Latino families. So right now, out of those 24 students that are chronically absent, 15 of them identify as Hispanic or Latino. And 11 out of those 15 have limited to no English. So we are seeing that impacting them coming to school, and I attribute a lot of that to the barriers that they're facing being here in country. If they have little to no English, their parents might have little to no English. School may not have been important to them. So really educating our families that we want them here. We want to be a part of your journey as you move forward. Some of the other things that we do that I think are really great are the parent engagement events that we do throughout our year. Each of the grade levels has one. Getting the parents into the building. How can we make you feel like you're safe? How can we make you feel like you're a part of what's going on for your children's education? Because families are key in all of this. I'm going to hand it over to Megan, who's going to talk more about our PBIS and what we're doing on that front.
Good evening. My name is Megan Baker, and I am the social studies teacher at Winship this year, as well as an administrative intern working with Travis. My role tonight is to share the SEL and PBIS goal that we've adopted this year to help support students in their learning and their development. You'll see on this slide, we have our goal up here. Our overall PBIS goal this year is to decrease behavior referrals by 50% by implementing our behavior intervention flowchart with Fidelity. This flowchart has been very helpful in determining which behaviors can and should be managed by our teachers in the classroom, and then which behaviors should be following the referral process and reaching our administration. By following this behavior flowchart school-wide, there has been a clear and consistent process for all staff, for students to follow as these behavior issues arise. In addition to following the behavior flowchart, our school is focused on many inputs this year to promote the positive behavior. A few of the inputs implemented are weekly SEL lessons in each class, our ROAR postcards to recognize and reinforce positive behavior, weekly counseling lessons for all of our grade levels, monthly assemblies to recognize positive student behavior, as well as visits to St. Anne's Assisted Living Center down the street from us to build connections with senior citizens in our community. In addition to the inputs that I just explained, our behavior team has worked very closely over the last year to create a school-wide behavior matrix that all students have been explicitly taught and are expected to follow each day. This matrix has been very helpful for students and for staff because expectations are explained and they change throughout our building depending on where students are. During class meetings and monthly assemblies, we take time to review the expectations in the different areas of our school. We also take time to teach about the different voice levels that there are, when they'd be appropriate to use in different parts of our building, what line basics look like when you're lining up to go go to PE, what they look like when you're waiting for your teacher to pick you up from lunch, what our body basics look like when we're on the carpet versus what they look like when we're sitting at our seat. And then reminding students to use their manners, but some of our students may not know what manners look like. So explicitly teaching, waiting your turn, requesting, asking, not just expecting the first time that you ask for something, and teaching what active listening and learning look like. We've also had to really talk to some of our students about apologizing and what that looks like and how that is important to our relationships in the classroom. But by teaching this behavior matrix explicitly, all students and staff really understand what's expected in every part of our school. And what we've found through the conversations with staff as we were making this is like, wow, we really need to hold each other accountable too. That, you know, if we see a class walking through the hallway and they're not at a volume 0, like it's important for us to be able to have that open communication so that we're reinforcing this K through 5, because this is language that we want kindergartners to use as well as 5th graders from start to finish at Winship. So since our school has put a huge focus, especially this year, on following the behavior matrix and really cracking down on those expectations and following the flowchart with fidelity to meet our goal, our staff has really committed to recognizing and reinforcing the ROAR behaviors that students are displaying each day. And at Winship, the ROAR behaviors that we talk about stand for respectful actions, only safe behaviors, always do your best, and make responsible choices. And when we notice students doing this, which most of the time they are, we really have been focusing on recognizing it immediately, reinforcing it, and getting those postcards in the kids' hands. You see their little faces light up. They love to go to that mailbox. They press the awesome button. They put it in there, flash their little card to Miss Lori in the office. We have our celebration, and then they're able to pick out a free book to take home to read and share with their families. And something that's been really cool as a way to kind of encourage staff members to write postcards, because we know sometimes you have a million things to do as a teacher, so like, when am I gonna do this? Well, as a way to kind of keep accountability and just reminders, I've taken it on to review data each month and send teachers just kind of like just a little reminder of like, hey, this was your data for the month, this is how many kids received a postcard. More months than not, we've had over half of our teachers have 100% in their class. But as a way to kind of take that responsibility just off of classroom teachers, I also send an email to all staff members, a list of the kids that did not receive a postcard that previous month, so that we can have that shared ownership as a staff. Hey, it's not just that teacher's responsibility, we can all take part. And it's kind of funny to see, like, I sent the December data out right, I think the Monday after we came back from break, and said, now that we're back in our full week, you know, this was our data. It was a little low compared to where we had been at. You know, let's see if we can get after it in January this month. And that next day, it was like postcards flying. You saw teachers, we saw our counselor. Our counselor wrote over 20 postcards that day. And we had paras writing postcards. We're just seeing a really, really great connection within the school and a shared ownership that really, I think, matters and shows the kids that it's not just their classroom teacher that's expecting these behaviors. It's not just Mr. T, it's everybody, and it's a common message. So, as you see up on the board, you can see we started in September at 50%, and after that first month and that first email went out, it was super exciting because we're like, wow, 22% up, like this is great. And then obviously we saw a little bit of a decline, but like I said, in January, once that email went out, I checked today and we were already up over 55% of students already receiving at least one postcard, and we're only halfway through the month. So we're really excited about this model and our goal, and I think that we can feel our students growing and learning through this model. Does anybody have any questions about our PBIS goal or anything we're putting in place?
Questions, Mr. Clevin?
So what does PBIS stand for?
Yes, so when we talk about PBIS, it's Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports.
Thanks.
Yep.
Other questions? Okay, thank you.
Yep, all right. And this is Betsy McIntyre. She's going to share community collaborations.
Thank you. All right, my name is Betsy McIntyre. I'm the library media specialist at Winship. As you can hear, we're all very proud about lots of things. Our community collaborations is something that I think we can speak about how proud we are. We have many community collaborations that we have at Winship. These are just a few, but just to talk about a couple, the therapy partnerships, we have CVIC, The Village, and Deep Roots Healing coming into Winship to do sessions with students. Deep Roots Healing does a session in Spanish with some of our Spanish speakers, which is really unique to our school. UND, lots of collaborations with UND, but just at the last Red event, we were able to connect through the Grand Forks Public Library with Spanish students in the language program, and we had like 5 people to show up that spoke Spanish and were able to read with kids that day whose parents didn't come, which was really, really fun to see. Lots of culture events. We have Welcoming Winship, which is an event we do in May. North Dakota Museum of Art, you can see in the top right corner that picture. I think we've had 2 to 3 concerts this year alone. So we're giving our students these experiences that they might not get on their own. And it's just been really fun. We've had lots of really fun groups there. University Park Neighborhood and Blue Zones, we do quite a few events with them. We did a raking event. They helped us with the Winship sign and the planting in front of it. And then Logan talked about Great Plains Food Pantry, and of course the Mission, who provides Friday food backpacks, Friday food bags. Also, I think it's important that these collaborations are enriching our students, but also that our students are enriching other people in the community when we go. Last year, we received a grant. Chrissy wrote a grant through the foundation. We were able to bring every student to the Grand Forks Public Library to register for a library card, to get a tour, to understand the services provided there. And as a result, this year, they added many more titles in Spanish to their collection, which I think is just the way they saw us come in and to see what was kind of in demand. I think those collaborations are just so important for our community and for our students. And you can see Megan talked about the office referrals. Our goal was, I believe, a 50% decrease. So you can see by the time we got to December, that's something to celebrate. We were at that decrease, and hopefully that will continue as we head into January. We talked about some of these inputs. Some of the inputs are the same as our outputs, just the things that we're seeing. You know, as much as you pour in, you can see those coming out in our students. Lots of data. Our HRS surveys are showing lots of this growth. Some of our small groups in SEL. Megan gets on the intercom every Friday to do her bucket filler challenge, and there are screams down the hallway for the class that wins, and then just the decrease in student referrals. So lots of these things that we've talked about have an impact on student growth and just the way that our students are growing daily, both in our schools and in our communities. My job is also unique to Winship in that I am the library media specialist, which if you don't know, I teach classes as a normal specialist like PE, music, and social studies, but I'm able to be there 100% of the time, which is really fabulous because I'm only teaching those classes half of the time. So the other half of the time, I'm able to do different things that lots of schools are not able to do. One is that I get to go into every classroom once a month to do a STEM lesson, and I just read a storybook and then incorporate a STEM lesson into that storybook, and it's just really great for language development for all of our students, something that the kids look forward to. Also having an increased number of ELBA participants. If you don't know what ELBA is, Elementary Library Book Awards. Super fun to be able to be there daily to have these conversations with kids. Having somebody there every day gives kids access to books, but also things like the Red event. I pull all of our Spanish books, all of our Nepali books to put on the table for the Red event. So when families come, those parents who do not read in English are able to find a text that they might be able to share with their families to read. And then I put access to the library and the people in it. And when I was going over this with Travis, he's like, but you're not really in there all the time. And he's right. Like, I don't just sit in the library all day, right? I'm all over the place. So this morning, I was able to sit in on a wit and wisdom lesson in 4th grade, which was really awesome. And when I came back to grab a drink of water, I had a student who was like, where have you been? It's like, you know, so I just think that having me there every day is so powerful. Having conversations with kids about books, just it's just really, really amazing. Last year, we added so many Spanish titles to our collection, able to, when we draw for postcards, not only are our books in English, but they're in other languages as well. Those kinds of things are super special and something that we're proud of at Winship. All right, and Macy's going to come on up.
Good evening. My name is Macy Strem. I'm one of our special education strategists at Winship. Tonight I'll be sharing about our MTSS process for behaviors and how we support our most vulnerable students as they develop emotional skills to be successful in school, but also in the community. So our first part of MTSS is our check-in, check-out system. The system has 4 main focus points, is to be intentional, to be consistent, to make connections, and to be goal-focused. The check-in, check-out system helps connect school staff members with students needing additional mentoring opportunities. The mentor and the student meet regularly to develop a trusting relationship, talk about challenges, provide guidance, and review personal goals. Our hope with the check-in, check-out is that the mentors become consistent adults who students can go to when needing advice, managing emotions, practicing skills, and most importantly, navigating life at school, at home, and in the community. In addition to our check-in, check-out system, we also have a responder system. Our responder system or responder schedule creates a system where staff members can reach out for additional adult support in order to effectively work with students during challenging moments. All teachers and one-on-one paras have a walkie-talkie with them or in their classrooms. When a responder is called, the responder's job is to either help the student who is needing more emotional support to de-escalate so the teacher is able to problem solve with that student at a later time, or the responder can switch off with the teacher to take over the class while the teacher problem solves with that student. You can see in the picture the responder schedule. It has our times and it has staff in our school that are designated to certain times on certain days of the week. Those staff members have been involved in MTSS meetings at some point. They have de-escalating trainings in order to help the students. The responders in the other photo there were the lines on there. They're in charge of documenting each call, and next to their name, they put the student initial, and then they rate how severe the behavior was. Therefore, the MTSS team can collect data on that student behavior, and the teachers that call the responder are also in charge of adding that into Panorama. That kind of leads us into our third step within the MTSSB process, which is team referrals and interventions. Team referrals and interventions are about collaborative approaches to identifying and to support students with ongoing behavioral needs. When our Tier 1 behavior supports are not enough, staff members will refer to students using our MTSSB form, and our MTSSB team will come together and meet with that teacher about that referred student. After hearing about the ongoing areas to problem solve, the team develops an intervention plan to specifically target the behavior that is most interfering with the learning. The plan is documented within Panorama to collect data and determine effectiveness of that plan. The team then has follow-up meetings with the staff member or members to discuss the plan, any changes that need to be made, and or even better, to celebrate student behavior achievement. So our ultimate goal in the MTSSB process is to support our most vulnerable students as they develop emotional skills to be successful in school and out in the community. Are there any questions?
Oh, thank you.
There were quite a few families that I connected with when they were picking their children up from Encore today, and they were going to watch. So I just need to talk to them for a second, because I hope this information and these stories honor the work we do with those families. We care for them so deeply. They're such an important part of our community. And to the staff, not only to the staff that's here, but to the staff that works with these children every day, I do think they're everything that is right and good and just about public education. They're some of the hardest working and smartest people I know. I think the Grand Forks schools are just so fortunate to have the teachers and support personnel in place. We're awfully fortunate. So I'm proud of them. I'm proud of our kids. You know, it's not so long after winter vacation. You just listen to Ms. Strem talk about one way we're trying to help students that have specific needs related to emotional supports or de-escalation. And what happened today? We didn't have one responder call. You know, not a single one. Our responder says, I'm kind of bored today. But I think that speaks to some of the themes all of them talked about. When you give support and you provide instruction that meets their need, and when you have a group of people that work together, it works. Things get better. Little growth snippets at a time. And I'm so very proud of that. I appreciate you listening and being a part of this conversation. I want to pause once again before we wrap for any questions you might have for me or any of our team members that shared information with you this evening.
Any questions? Yes.
First of all, we also have to give kudos to you as the building leader. I know that this great team would say that if they had the opportunity, so I'm going to say that for them. So thank you for your leadership. I do have a specific question. When I saw your aggregate growth data in ELA and mathematics around students and IEPs, it really flew up the charts to me because that is a category of students of which we've struggled to meet the needs of academically district-wide. So I'm wondering if all of the systems that you described tonight are what you attribute to that great growth, or if there are additional interventions and supports that occur as well to target that specific population.
I think I'll speak about two things in particular. One, it is collaboration. Our speech-language pathologists and our two strategists are really committed to collaborating with those classroom teachers. They don't take days off. I think that's essential. The second thing is there is a mentality, whether it's on a poster or not, that these are our kids. They're not their kids or her kids or his kids. They are our kids. And I think that matters. When you all pull on the rope in the same direction at the same time, it makes a difference. Now, with that said, we do have student populations, like all schools, that have very unique and very challenging needs. And so you have to be really thoughtful when you work together. You can't just say, oh, let's work hard and it'll happen. You really have to be focused on some of the best, newest, most sought-after research on instructional strategies. You have to continue to push yourself and challenge yourself to figure out new ways to reach those needs. You have to be curious and open-minded. You have to have a 1940s work ethic. And thankfully, these team members do. They just do not give up. And I think that speaks to those numbers that you were looking at.
Other questions? Yep, Mr. Palmasino.
Just to ask, has your staff and your parents enjoyed the new look of the outside of the building as well as the new playground?
Yeah, they have.
Now, your next question is you should give us your order of what you need inside.
What's that? What
you need to be done inside.
Oh. All right. I appreciate that question, Bill. But yes, the commitment from a number of people, specifically this guy to my left, and the building ground director worked really hard to make that exterior and our playground happen in a way that it should. If you are familiar with the playground, it spun for a while and it sat in a to-do list for a long time. And so we were grateful for the support of team members at MSEC that really were invested in it and got it done. We appreciated that. The inside, walk through it. It is in really nice shape. Rosalinda and Frank, our custodial team, take a lot of pride on the inside of the building. Much of it was done, I hate to say a number because I think I'm going to be wrong, but I'm going to give you a range, about 16 to 18 years ago. Tile, sheetrock, paint, but we recently had new carpet put in. We are in phase 1 for safety and security for elementary schools next year. That'll be a major component. We're super excited about those plans and renderings that we're seeing and finalizing. Lots of walkthroughs have already happened. We think we're going to start that work in May when the kids are still working and learning in our buildings, so that it's done by the beginning of the next school year. So that'll be a really great upgrade for us. There are things that we just can't, change. We have 12 classrooms for our students. At most grade levels, we have one classroom that is average to decent sized classroom, and we have one classroom that's too small. So we'll have class sizes in one classroom that might be, let's say 20, 21, 22, all the way up to 24 this year. And then we might have to really limit those in the other room because of its, size. Just the square footage isn't there to have 24 in that room. And so you'll see that throughout our school, all the way from kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade. There's one big room and one small room. Can't change much of that. Unless you want to build up above the mezzanine, Bill, there's space up there. We can talk afterwards. Appreciate your commitment to that.
Yes. Do you have one here? Go ahead, please.
So my question was, for the roar cards, are those things that they send home with the kids to their parents that they can put on their fridge and stuff like
Exactly.
that? They are?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a similar experience that I had in middle school, but in elementary school, I was used to having, so do you implement things in the classroom different color coding for level charts and stickers that you can students can put on the board if they did good for the day, or daily things that students get rewarded for by their behavior in specific classrooms, or is it just the roar cards that are the main focus?
Oh, I love that question. So before, we might have had different expectations in different classrooms or in different hallways. That's actually one of the reasons we put together that behavior matrix, is because we knew that we were sometimes doing the kids a disservice when maybe year to year they would have different expectations. That's why we put that in place. And so we want to celebrate, accentuate when those students are meeting those expectations or exceeding those expectations. That's the sole purpose. Are there students that might have some unique plans because they have some unique behaviors or some unique circumstances? For sure. It's not a rule for all of our kids or even most of our kids, but yeah, it absolutely happens for some of our children because they need it. But for the most part, the way we celebrate student behavior is with lots of love, lots of hugs, lots of high fives and handshakes, and the roar cards as well.
Ms. Flynn? Yeah.
I always like to ask this question because it gives the board members insight into maybe what you still need for resources. So give us your wish list item, or what would take this to the very best.
Well, it's always about people over programs. It always is. I really love this team. They are committed. They are very smart, very intelligent, and they do work extremely hard. It really is important when you have the dynamics we have with the different populations, and as you saw, the different levels within all those populations. A level 1 ML in 5th grade is not the same as a level 1 in 1st grade. Level 1 that's new to country is not the same as a level 1 that might have been born in our country. There's so many differences and so many differences and so many dynamics, and so you really need the people. But the other thing that I think Mr. Bakke and Dr. Brenner have been really cognizant of with our school, we don't have class sizes of 25 and up. It's really essential in order for our team members like Stephanie Kruger in math, or our special ed team, or our literacy teachers, or our ML teachers to make sure that there's, a smaller class size where they can meet all those dynamic needs. We were just talking about a student in another community related to one of us that has 30 in that classroom. I think teachers can walk on water, but that's a different type of walk to be able to do 30 in a classroom. And so we are seeing growth that is related to class sizes, which, we all know that. But we really have changed some of our commitments and expectations. Behavior you've heard. They talked about our intervention systems, our recommitment to teaching a curriculum with fidelity and zest. We think that's a really big deal. We're excited about Wit and Wisdom. That we know is a very big investment. We think that will serve our ML populations and all students quite well. We think that's a major thing that the school board has invested in. And I tip my hat to you for all those things. I appreciate the question.
Other comments, questions? Yes, Mr. Bakke.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to also note, and the team members didn't note this in their presentation, but I want you to know that on Saturday, there will be a number of Winship students and staff that will be taking over the Ralph this weekend. And so if you are at the hockey game, make sure you note the individuals that are participating in that game that are all coming from Winship, and we're excited to watch that and participate in that. And so thank you to the staff for putting in those extra hours of organization and time and effort to provide this opportunity for our students. Again, another note that just the extra time and efforts that are put in to provide opportunities for our students that go unmatched. And so not only thank you to the staff, but also thank you to REA for that opportunity and the work that they put in to make that happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Matt. It was really fun to work through this project with REA. Jody Hodgson has been completely hands-on, has made school visits with team members. Brock Schneider and Brittany Dvorak, Nicole Latovsky have just been fantastic connecting families, getting a sneak peek at some of the supports they need to do simple things, or sometimes what we think are simple things, like downloading a digital ticket into a North Dakota account. Seems easy, not always easy. And that team has been really awesome. So thanks for mentioning that.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We'll move on to item 4 on our agenda, the public comment period. I do not have any blue comment forms turned in. Are there any citizens here wishing to make public comment? Move on to item 5. There are no recommendations for discussion, so we'll move on to item 6. This is 6A, the consent agenda. I would seek a motion to approve the consent agenda for tonight. It's been moved by Mr. Clevin, a second by Ms. Flynn. We'll take a roll call vote.
Manley,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Palmesino,
Yes.
Kodak,
Yes.
Clevin,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Berger,
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. 6B, notice of intent to negotiate GF Directors Association. This is Dr. Brenner.
Yes, thank you, Chair Berger. And perhaps before the Winship crew leaves, I didn't want to interrupt since you're not able to tell when I want to speak because I can't raise my hand on the bat phone. But what I'd like to say is just commendations to our Winship colleagues for everything that they do. I'm glad this meeting was recorded because I believe there are snippets that would be applicable to and for our lawmakers as they're making decisions about one-size-fits-all assessments. And Winship's story is the rest of the story. So thank you, commendations, congratulations to Principal Thorvaldsen and your team for presenting this evening. Thank you. On to 6B. You have the first memorandum of 3 coming from one of the negotiating groups. That would be from the Grand Forks Directors Association. What I'll do is I'll basically read this first memo, but for the next 2, it's going to be a repeat, so I'll just abbreviate that. As indicated in the memo, North Dakota Century Code, Section 15.1-16-13.3 provides that either the board of the school district or the representative organization may modify or terminate the contract on its annual anniversary date by giving notice of its desire to modify or terminate the contract to the other part not less than 160 days before the annual anniversary date. For Grand Forks Public Schools, that anniversary date is July 1. Attached is a notice from the GFDA, the Directors Association President, Eric Ripley, stating their desire to enter into negotiations prior to the expiration of the existing negotiated agreement. A petition describing the group wanting to negotiate and seeking recognition as a representative organization according to the Century Code 15.1-16-10 and 15.1-16-11 is expected to be filed in the immediate future. As required by state law, the petition will be forwarded to the board for consideration in February. So tonight is the intent to negotiate, and then when we come back under action again in February, it'll be the petition to negotiate. So what you have in front of you from the directors, the administrative recommendation is to receive the notice of intent to negotiate from the Grand Forks Directors Association.
Any questions for Dr. Brenner?
Yes, we got one.
Yes, Mr. Clevin.
And it might have already been stated and I missed it. When does the contract officially expire?
June 30th, 2025.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, I would seek a motion to receive this notice of intent to negotiate from the Grand Forks Directors Association.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Clevin, second by Mr. Larson. Any discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Larson,
Yes.
Palmesino,
Yes.
Clevin,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Manley,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Berger,
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. 6C, notice of intent to negotiate Grand Forks Education Association. Dr. Brenner?
Okay, same thing, Chair Berger. I won't read through everything other than this is from the Grand Forks Education Association from President Brady Olson, and the administrative recommendation is to receive the notice of intent to negotiate from the Grand Forks Education Association. He's seeking a motion.
Yes. I'm sorry, I had just pulled up the wrong link. Any questions for Dr. Brenner?
Same expiration date on the contract as the directors?
That is correct.
Thank
That's
you.
correct.
That is correct.
Any other questions?
Just kind of jumping ahead maybe, well, no, I won't do that, never mind.
Seeing no other questions, I would seek a motion to receive the notice of intent to negotiate from the Grand Forks Education Association.
So moved.
It's been moved by Mr. Clevin, second by Mr. Larson. Any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Palmesino,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Manley,
Yes.
Clevin,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Berger,
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. 6D, this is the notice of intent to negotiate Grand Forks Principals Association. One more time, Dr. Brenner, please.
Okay, and you have a letter from the president of the association, Terry Bohan. Everything else applies, and similarly, their contracts would expire June 30th, 2025. The administrative recommendation is to receive the notice of intent to negotiate from the Grand Forks Principals Association.
Any questions for Dr. Brenner? Seeing none, I would seek a motion to receive the notice of intent to negotiate from the Grand Forks Principals Association. It's moved by Mr. Clevin. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Larson. Any further discussion? We'll take a roll call vote.
Flynn,
Yes.
Clevin,
Yes.
Anderson,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Palmesino,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Manley,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Berger,
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. 6E, policy review. Dr. Lund, would you give a summary of the last meeting of the Policy Review Committee, please?
I will, and since I'm a college football fan and not a pro football fan, I'm going to read every policy before we vote on them. No, if you look at your if you look at the section, there are 7 first reading policies. The first 3 of them, policy AAC, FDD, and FF, have just some very minor changes to those policies and also some added legal references. The fourth one, ABDB, which is use of generative artificial intelligence, is a new policy simply because artificial intelligence is taking over the world, and that's a new policy. The fifth one, ACF, which is the whistleblower protections policy, has been updated to reflect federal and state law changes and also to provide consistency within our other policies. The sixth one is BA school board ethics, and that just has one minor change on it. And then the seventh one is policy IAD, which is sale of district real property, which is a new policy for us, not for the school boards. And just as a reminder, prior to getting to the school board meeting, these policies are developed and modified over time by a cadre of attorneys at the School Board Association who have expertise in school law. They then go through the executive cabinet and are reviewed by the executive cabinet here. And then there is our policy review committee, which we review it before it gets here. So it was the recommendation of the policy review committee to approve the first reading of those 7 policies. And I or my other colleagues on the committee can entertain questions if there are any questions about it.
Ms. Flynn, anything to add from that committee meeting from your standpoint? Okay. Dr. Lund, if I'm hearing you correctly, those 7 policies would be one motion to complete the first reading, and then in the cover memo, there's also BA-BR2. Will we touch base on that in a moment, or?
That'll be touched in a moment. And
okay.
you can either do them individually, or if you want to do them as a whole, you can. Although if any board member has objections, we would want to pull that particular policy. So whatever the group wants to do.
Sure. Well, how about this? I would first seek a motion to complete the first reading of the 7 policies listed, AAC, FDD, FF, ABDB, ACF, BA, and IAD as amended.
I think the motion comes from the committee, correct?
No, it's just a recommendation. I mean, it can come from anybody. By tradition, we've always, whoever's been presenting has made the motion.
Yeah.
I just elected not to. If you want me, I can make the motion. I'll make the motion to.
You're going against the wheels here.
Okay, so what we have now is a motion on the floor to complete the first reading of those 7 policies as amended. First of all, is there a second to that motion? It's been seconded by Mr. Palmasino. Any discussion? I saw Mr. Clevin. Yes.
So after first reading, we can still modify language? Because there are a couple things that I'd like to talk about on one of the policies, but I don't want to get in the way of a first reading. So if we can still change language or ask the committee to review some language going forward, I'd have no problem with the motion.
Nothing, on these policies, nothing is finalized until it's approved by the second meeting. It takes 2 approvals, so.
Thank you.
That's correct.
So I'm going to interrupt. So does
Dr.
that
Hodak?
mean that anything that we have some concerns about or need further clarification on, do we give that now to the committee, or do we wait and give it at the second reading?
Well, I can give you my opinion. It would be nice to get those recommendations before the first reading, or if not, at the first reading, rather than waiting until the very last second, and then all of a sudden we have a controversy, because there may be something that we could easily clear up, but it's hard to do it off the top of your head right in the middle of a meeting when we've got a stack of 150 pages. So it'd be better to do it beforehand than after, would be my recommendation.
So to that point, Dr. Hodak, is there a policy that you would like to take out of this
No, there's
motion?
nothing that I want to take out
Sure.
as far as the policy, but I do have, it's under of course, it would be this AI that we've got coming, and so it's going to be unbelievable. But in the guidelines on page 2 of the AI, I would respectfully ask the committee to consider the wording where it says, "The district also encourages staff to explore generative AI to discover lesson plan ideas, create templates or assessments, and to generate ideas for the personalization of student learning. In doing so, staff shall use then AI tools in accordance with the applicable laws, regulations, and board policy." And the only reason that I question that or even, hesitate a little bit is, does that mean we're giving them carte blanche that they can use something that they find in the good old days when teachers had to turn in lesson plans? And if a teacher turned in a lesson plan that was, generated by the computer or anything else, that would be considered substandard. So I just would ask that because again, the School Boards Association sends us what is the minimal that they're recommending, and what we can do is to maximize if there's some just little tweaking of wording. So otherwise, I was very pleased with the rest of the policies.
Can I ask one follow-up question since we're discussing this? Do you have something in mind to change that paragraph, or would you want the policy review committee to bring this back for a discussion? What are we hoping?
From what I see with it, I would just want to, caution, almost like a light blinking for you to revisit that. Also, when revisiting that, possibly ask teachers what that would mean to them, how they would interpret that. Because if we were to ever get into an issue where we need to release a teacher because of substandard, and they say, well, you say right out that you encourage your staff to use this, so I was using it as a teacher to assess this student and so forth. So no, I'm just throwing it out as a red light, consideration, warning.
Dr. Glatch?
Thank you, Dr. Hodak. The timing of this is quite good. This policy was vetted by the Artificial Intelligence Task Force, which I lead, and we meet this Thursday. When we reviewed the language that was in this policy, we were very comfortable with it. The intent of that was to encourage staff to use AI in mannerisms that may help their efficiency and allow them more time to work on individualizing lessons for students. None of that, though, gives a green light to veer off of our guaranteed and viable curriculum standards and that sort of thing, which is what you're alluding to. So we'll revisit that this Thursday, if that's all right, and bring those suggestions forward to the policy committee.
Yes, I think that's very helpful, and thank you for that. Mr. Clevin, since we've got these 7, did you also want to lift up what it was that you had a challenge
Actually,
with?
I feel kind of like silly, this one's, because it's tiny in comparison to the impact of that one. But on the policy about discipline, the reference to the all district high schools, it's bullet point number 3, it's page 12 of 25 on the PDF itself. There's the qualifying language except alternative high school programs, which I think we all acknowledge it's an exclusion because they have their own policy. Like I was talking to Dr. Lund about this, alternative high school has a different set of conduct policies. I would only ask that additional qualifier be included here. Because just as it is, like in the black and white, it's kind of like they don't need a policy at all. We have an exception here because we know they have a different policy more suitable to their constituency. So some kind of clarifying language on that would be desirable. Other than that, but it's a quibble, admittedly.
Sure.
I'll just respond to
Yes.
that.
Go ahead,
And
please,
there
Ms. Fo-
is a reference in the meeting notes, because we did talk about that. And Cindy was just going to request a response from NDSBA.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So we have that we'll
Okay.
talk about then for next
So
meeting.
it's already kind of flowing down the path already.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Any other comments, discussion about the motion on the floor, which, as a reminder, is to approve the first reading of the 7 policies in our packet? Any further Discussion?
Just a comment,
Go ahead.
appreciate the committee work. Thank you.
We'll take a roll call vote.
Anderson,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Manley,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Palmesino,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Clevin,
Yes.
Berger,
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. We also, in this same memorandum, have a recommendation to complete one reading of BABR2, Board Member Internet and Social Media Use as amended. So I would entertain a motion to complete one reading of BA-BR2 as amended.
I'll move that we approve that.
It's been moved by Dr. Lund. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Hodak.
Just a comment.
Yes, please.
The changes were based on recent U.S. Supreme Court rulings, so I think it's pretty clear-cut if the U.S. Supreme Court has based on it, we've had to change it based on that. So that was the reason for it.
So as we go through the discussion on this, it is pages 24 and 25 of your electronic packet related to this agenda item. Any further discussion, questions? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Palmesino,
Yes.
Manley,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Clevin,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Flynn, Anderson,
Yes.
Berger,
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. We are on to 6F, consideration of a joint powers agreement for cooperative purchasing. This is Brandon Bombach.
Yes, thank you, President Berger, members of the board. This joint powers agreement is a new one of its type coming to us, and it's essentially through conversation with some of the other larger school districts across the state of North Dakota about wanting to come together to try to leverage a little bit of our size and efficiency for different purchasing opportunities. Admittedly, it's new, and it's kind of finding a sweet spot perhaps in some procurement processes. The state law, and it's cited in the memo, really articulates when you need to do it, and how many days something needs to be published. But the specifics of the RFP you're putting out can change based on your need. And so we do this alone. We ask for precisely what we'd like. There are other structures such as state procurement where they've already gone through the bidding process, or even cooperative agreements where there's an association that's together have already put out those requirements. Looking to some of my the more experienced business managers, they feel that there's an opportunity to find sometimes the right size things for us. Consider up and down the valley of some of the larger school districts and leveraging, and rather than bidding across the whole state and where to deliver that child nutrition commodity, we're going to focus on just this valley. I don't entirely know all of the application to it just yet. This agreement really just puts in place the opportunity to do that. And then as the conversations really come up, will be one more sort of tool in the toolbox to use in this regard. So this was an idea, I think, really led by Bismarck. It's inclusive of Fargo, Grand Forks, Mandan, Minot, West Fargo, and Williston. It was Fargo's attorney on staff who pulled this together. Their board has acted on it, but I understand most of these other boards actually have a meeting tonight where they'll be considering the same thing. So the administrative recommendation here would be to approve the joint powers agreement for the cooperative purchasing as presented, but just as a reminder too, there's no requirement to ever use it should we have better rates in any of those other structures.
Any initial questions for Mr. Bombach? Mr. Clevin.
There was some reference in there about defaulting to Bismarck being in charge, and I'm paraphrasing. I know that. But how does that clause work, and what's the possible worst outcome? Like, because at that point, we don't kind of control our own stuff. And how do we resolve that possibility?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. I think that came from a statement of kind of their leadership on the concept and their willingness to raise the hand to kind of do some of the paperwork behind these things. We will still satisfy all publication requirements, and we're gonna raise our hand if, you know, essentially this tool will be a way for them to say, hey, we're gonna go shop for something in particular. You know, who wants in on this one, or who's gonna be a part of that? And then it's with those details that Bismarck can just kind of lead through that bidding process or that RFP process, and they'll articulate, you know, it's gonna be, you know, Mandan and Bismarck is gonna advertise for this one, and they're trying to attract a vendor in that area, but with double not double, but a larger capacity because the two school districts together. So my point is, they're gonna help lead in that paperwork. We're involved with every step of the way. If we don't like something, there's absolutely nothing that precludes us from going through our normal bidding process as an individual school district or looking at the state procurement of what they've already bid, et cetera.
So it's totally an opt-in process, and we can opt out at any point along an individual procurement process?
Yes. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Baumbach?
Just a
Dr.
comment
Helbig?
is that if we do decide to opt out, you know, how many times do we opt out? Because then it could change that RFP to something different so that when there's a vendor or whatever saying, here we come, and then they're expecting all of these schools, you know, to participate, and then all of a sudden West Fargo and Grand Forks says, no, we're not going to. That could end up changing things, but it's built in here from what I've read that those people would know that if your offer isn't good enough, you know, the districts do not have to buy into it. So they've got to work on their end to make it to us, so.
And I'm not envisioning that once an RFP is issued, any participant in that collective bargaining RFP, you're in it. But we could still choose not to accept the submitted bids. I'm only referring to the opt-out even before it's issued for public RFP. So we're talking clarifying intent here.
And I would just underscore communication between the districts. It's been honestly one of the most fun observations I've had entering the K-12 space. It's not your private sector. It's not if we got a good idea, we're not necessarily going to share it because of perceived competition. It's more like we want to share it. We want to get it out there. And so we're in constant communication in the first place. And so when this idea was mentioned, we said, yeah, let's give it a shot together.
And there are other cooperative purchasing vehicles out there. Is there a method in determining at what point, like, is there a priority? If we pursue that existing agreement or this third agreement? Like, how are we going to resolve that? And does this group provide advice on that decision-making?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. So we always do the best we can to shop around, so to speak. And so we look at that, and we're going to try to assess based on, first and foremost, what we're looking for. I mean, the details sometimes can change so greatly that that product might be available there, but not quite the way we need it, if I can say it that way. And so we're going to always be looking for that very best price. You know, explicitly, if it's already been bid and the North Dakota Century requirements are met, we don't go to the board to get that permission to do that. You know, we will do that when needed, or if in particular there's something of interest to the board, we can always absolutely do that. But I would say that it's up to our administrative team to do a good job of looking for the best prices wherever we can find them.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, the administrative recommendation is to approve the joint powers agreement for cooperative purchasing as presented, so I would entertain a motion to approve that JPA. It's been moved by Mr. Larson, second by Ms. Flynn. Is there any further discussion?
I'm a little worried we're reinventing a new wheel, so I'm probably going to vote against it, just because I think we have lots of tools already available.
Okay. Other discussion? Yes, Dr. Lund?
Brandon, would you like to comment about that?
The only comment, I appreciate the ask, is I think it's still new, and we might find ourselves in that situation where we found that we've recreated the new wheel, and we'll learn from that. if we find some value in that, we'll be sure to make sure you're aware of it too.
Yes, Mr. Larson.
I think I viewed this as like a upside-only kind of agreement. It really just seems prudent to do it, to collaborate and learn from people that are doing the same things a little bit differently. Kudos.
Other comments? Seeing none, we'll take a roll call vote.
Hodak,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Manley,
Yes.
Clevin,
No.
Anderson,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Palmesino,
Yes.
Lund,
Yes.
Berger,
Yes.
8 yes, 1 no, 0 absent.
Motion passes. We are on to 7A, announcements, and I'll start with Dr. Brenner because I feel like I missed him the last time he wanted an opportunity. So, Dr. Brenner, you're up first.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you, President Berger. Just a reminder that Wednesday and Thursday evening of this week, January 15th at 7 p.m., we'll have a public input meeting at Central High School regarding boundary line discussions, demographics. And then Thursday the 16th at 7 p.m., we'll be at Red River. The Red River session will be recorded, so we'll be able to play that back, upload that on our website. So most of that was explained in Karate Focus, so I won't comment any more on that. And then finally, at least I can see on my screen that you've got some pink boxes in front of you from Whitman's. And January is School Board Appreciation Month, and I just want to demonstrate my appreciation and gratitude for all of you with a small token of appreciation. The community writ large doesn't understand how much time and energy you put into your servant leadership. So thank you very much from our adult board members to our student board members. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other announcements? 7B, board requests for future consideration. Anything you would like discussed or added for a future meeting? Seven C, our school board meeting norms. Mr. Palmesino, how did we do? Very good. Very good? Very good. Thank you. And we are adjourned.